Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and we're here to do some yoga. Today we are going to just move through a simple yoga flow for the morning, just to awaken your body and your breath and get started on the right foot. So thank you for starting your day or whenever you're watching this with me. I'm going to recommend you have a couple of blocks and a blanket. Doesn't have to be a yogi blanket, just something that can be folded up. So maybe it's like a towel instead of a fluffy, cozy blanket. So gather what you need and then meet me back in a seat. I'm sitting up on my blanket. You're welcome to do the same. If you do, I'd recommend just still allowing your whole glutes to be able to press down into the floor. So we don't want to have the blanket too high where we're having to tilt our pelvis. We want to be able to have some mobility through the hips. Okay. Bring your hands to your knees. Draw your shoulders up towards your ears and then exhale, let them go. Roll the shoulders down the back. If it feels safe to do so, start to close the eyes. And just start to notice the breath. You don't need to change it. You don't need to manipulate it at all. Just watch your breath and get curious. This is kind of a weird sensation, especially if it's something you're not used to. Breath is just so natural to many of us that you don't have to think about it. So when you do, you start realizing like, oh, have I been breathing in too long? Have I been breathing out too long? I don't know. Try to quiet those thoughts, if any have arisen. And then when you feel ready to do so, start to deepen the breath. Make your inhales and exhales a little longer than your natural breath. Can your exhales become a little bit longer than your inhales? Not to a point of strain by any means, but see if you can really let go of all the air. This technique of letting your exhales be a little bit longer can often help with anxiety or worry. So if you're ever feeling really activated, this is a practice that you may want to try in your day-to-day. Okay, let those breaths become even again, inhaling and exhaling. And then let's start to add our movement to our breath. Start to release your hands down by your sides. Let your fingertips touch the floor slightly. And then turn your palms out to the side. Let your arms lift. Gaze comes high. So do your hands. Hands come to touch. Bend the elbows if you need. Your exhale is going to bend your elbows. Bring your hands down through the center line of your body and bring your hands to heart center. Let's do this a few times with breath. Release the hands. Inhale, circle, sweep the arms. Let the gaze meet the hands at the top. Exhale, bend the elbows, hands down at your heart. And again, inhale. Exhale. Keep going with your pace, your breath. Waking up the body, waking up the breath. When you're ready for more, maybe this becomes even wider, really wide reach with the hands this time. And then as you exhale, you draw your navel in as you zipper down the center. Pulling the pelvic floor in, pulling the navel in as you zipper down. Keep going with breath. Your level of depth. Keep your hands at heart center once you finish this next round. Press the hands really strong together. Draw the core in. Find a little bit more length through the spine, pressing the crown of the head, the very tip top of the head up towards the sky. If you're jetting your chin forward, tuck it slightly. Inhale. Open mouth, sigh. Release the hands to the knees. Open the eyes if they've been closed. And then start to rest your hands in your knees. We're going to Sufi grind. So inhale, roll to one side. down the center, over to the other side. Basically, this is pelvic tilt. Inhaling rolls you forward, exhaling rolls you back. And then this is an action that's originating low. So your upper body's for sure going to follow, but this action's originating from the pelvis. And if movement in the pelvis isn't something that feels familiar, bring your hands to your hips, 4 fingers in front, thumb behind. And then as you roll forward, you'll feel your pelvis tilting. It doesn't have to be a lot, and you'll feel your pelvis tilting back. And then once that, you don't need the hands for feedback anymore, maybe bring them back to the knees. A couple more times this direction. And then switch. Go around the other way. There's points of tension. It's all good. Try to breathe through it. We hold a lot of tension in our hips. So what we're starting with here is going to be a spinal warm-up. We're starting from the base of our spine, and then we're going to go all the way to the top of the head. Couple more times this direction. And then when you feel satisfied, come back to sit. Nice tall spine once again, stacking your shoulders over your pelvis. Start to reach your hands down to the front ankle. Inhale, you'll roll forward on the pelvis. Exhale, tuck under. Inhale, forward. Exhale, tuck under. Back and forth you go. Forward and back. Still same idea. This action's coming from low. So our low core is kind of the one that's leading this charge. If you want more, bellow the breath with this. So inhale, let the belly send forward, navel draws forward, belly fills. Exhale, tuck the tail under, draw the core back, let go of all the air. You want to know what that looks like? Quick, let me demo. Choose your pace. It can stay slow as we started, or maybe it gets a little more activated like I shared. Another 30 seconds. And then start to slow your movements down. Slow them down until you're all the way back at stillness. Hands back to the knees. Taking a pause in between each of these shapes, maybe movement it calls, or maybe it's stillness. Okay, let's start to move up the spine. Bring your hands to your heart. Left hand, the back of the left hand is going to face out, and then the right hand's going to come to meet and then grip them. So it's called a bear grip. And then elbows out to the side. Bring your hands to your heart. In this shape, our hands naturally want to come up. Try to keep them low. Okay, draw the shoulders down the back. Really pull the hands apart. Make this nice and active. Draw the navel in a little bit. And then start to toggle your elbows side to side, so that the elbows meet your ribs. So we're activating our lymph here. We're starting to wiggle through our mid-thoracic spine. If it feels safe, maybe the head starts to bobble a little bit. But if your elbows start to go limp, which they will, because this is tiring, reactivate them, recommit to it. Maybe go a little quicker if you've been going slow. And then don't be afraid to make noises. Don't be afraid to have that little flappy sound on the sides. It's all good. Honestly, it's a good activity if you can get over that to kind of change the narrative that we've been. Okay, I won't get into that. So, a couple more breaths here. Maybe a little faster. Our next inhale, we're going to hold right at the heart center. Inhale. Hold the hands at the heart center, draw the elbows out to the side, sit up a little taller, tuck the chin slightly. Hold the breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it all go. This is about the time where my shoulders are like me next, please. We will do that. Inhale, you're gonna roll your shoulders forward and up. Exhale, roll them down and back. Forward and up, down and back. Hands just are grounded on the knees, but definitely moving with this motion. Couple more breaths here in this way, and then I'll give you another option. Okay, so you can continue with this action or start to flip the palms, tuck the elbows in at your sides, and then inhale, roll, pick up the ribs and the shoulders. Exhale, let it all go. Inhale, up and forward, down and back. Okay, 30 more seconds. If this wants to evolve in a different way, you want to do one shoulder at a time or go the opposite directions, spend the next 20 seconds doing you. On your next inhale, draw the shoulders up towards the ears, make fists with your hands, clench everything in, clench tight, 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 tight. Hold the breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, release everything. Take a second here. If you need to shake out the legs, get a little blood back in there, feel free to do that at any time. All right, it's taken me so long to suggest that. But you know your body at all times, anytime you're practicing with me, you can do whatever you'd like. That's the power of this app, is that you're in the privacy of your own home. So I don't ever suggest anything differently. Make modifications for yourself. All right, let's continue our journey. So we're going to start to make very tiny circles with the nose. Hands are grounded however you'd like. These small circles with your nose start to get larger and larger, like you're going through a spiral here. Keeping it slow, soft, controlled. You don't have to be whipping the neck around. And then once you're kind of full range for today, start to let the circles become smaller and smaller. Until you're back at center. And find your pause. Notice the effects of one side of the neck versus the other. And when you're ready, start your circles in the opposite direction. Pops, clicks, points of tension are normal. Breathe through it, but never force anything. And then once you're at your full range for today, start to let them become smaller and smaller until we're back at center. Take your pause. Good opportunity here to shake out the legs. And just notice how you feel. How do you feel after just a few minutes of a spinal warm-up and a little bit of breath? You already feel a little bit more ready to take on the rest of your day. If not yet, we got a little more time together. When you feel ready, just blink your eyes open if they're closed, and we're going to transition to a tabletop. So hands and knees. I suggest bringing this blanket now underneath your knees. If you don't have a blanket, but you're on, hardwoods, you may want to roll up a portion of your mat just to give yourself a little cushion. We're going to be here for a little while. Nice and slow. We're just waking up the body today, and we're not going to get too far into an asana practice. So find tabletop, knees directly underneath your hips, wrists directly underneath of your shoulders. Planting your hands strong, pointer fingers want to point forward. So if they're not, can you make sure that they are? And the creases of your wrists want to be parallel to the top line of the mat. And now draw your shoulders up towards your ears, and then exhale, roll them down and away. Draw the core in. Plant the tops of the feet, reach the crown of the head forward. And then just start to find a few shifts forward and back, waking up the wrists, waking up the core. Gaze is down in front of you. Come back to center, pause. Inhale, release the belly, let your tail lift, let your gaze lift. Exhale, draw the navel in, tuck the tail, let your gaze drop towards your knees. Cat and cow. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Get some spine mobility in there. Find some movement. Keep it going with your breath. And if you practice with me often, whether in the real world or in this YouTube world, you may know that these don't really stay rigid cat-cows for long. So move and ooze any way that feels good. So that might be rolling out your ribs. It might be pressing your hips over to one side to look towards your back toe. Find some movement that sounds good. We're going to play here for about 30 seconds. Whatever movement you found, you want to do so with breath. That's the real kicker of yoga. The real why. All right, couple more breaths, moving freely how you chose. And then we're going to meet in a child's pose. Knees are going to come wide, toes come towards one another. Draw your hips back towards your heels, walk your hands forward. Forehead comes down to the mat or a block. So if the floor feels far away, you can bring a block underneath of you so you get that grounding sensation. For a little bit more relaxed child's pose, your elbows, forearms, and hands can come down to the floor. For a little more active, extended child's pose, but actively press your hands down. Keep your elbows lifted so that the upper arms are having some sensation. 3 more breaths here. On your next inhale, let's come back to our tabletop shape. If you have blocks, I'm going to recommend grabbing them, bringing one underneath each hand. If you don't, that's okay. Just come up onto fingertips, and we're going to step the right leg forward, coming into a low lunge. Blocks can stay here on this mid setting or come to a higher setting. I'm going to choose a higher setting today. Need some mobility and some help with that. Okay, before we do anything else, can you imagine dragging your right foot back in space? It doesn't actually move, but it just pulls back a little energetically. The right hip starts to draw back into its socket as well. Can you imagine the same thing with the left knee? The left knee is rolling forward, even though it's not actually going to go anywhere. That's just tightening this whole lower foundation of this shape. Start to walk your hands up your thigh. Draw your core in, tiny tuck of your tail, not a lot, just a little bit, so that maybe that left hip flexor just went, whoa, okay, I feel you. Grounding your hands down onto your right leg. Also, if you're new to practicing with me, I'll drop these really weird, quirky things at random. So just be aware of that. Dad jokes for days, you know? Okay, reach your left hand high, right hand stays grounded. Remember our cue of drawing everything, the right leg back, the left leg forward, draw the core in. If you want more, start to reach your right hand to meet the left up overhead. So low crescent lunge. We're going to be here for 5 more breaths. If you want even more, you'll tuck your toes and lift your back knee. I'm not quite ready for that yet this morning, but maybe you are. 3 more breaths. Shining the heart forward. Maybe the gaze starts to climb the wall in front of you. One more breath. If your back knee is lifted, come back down to meet us. Take an inhale. Exhale, lower your hands down to your blocks or your fingertips. Inhale, shift your hips forward, drop forward, open up the heart. Knees going to come forward as well. Exhale, start to straighten your right leg. Walk your blocks underneath your shoulders. Let your right toes flip up. Hips reach straight back, half splits. And then we'll flow. Inhale, you'll roll forward. Exhale, you'll shift back. Keep going with your breath. In this version, your spine can be doing really one of two things. It can stay lifted and extended the whole time so that you're really working on this kind of, I guess, L-like shape, or you can start to bow the head and get a little stretch through the back of the body. That's up to you. 2 more. All right, let's come back. We're going to come into a twist from here. So we're planting our left hand either on this block, maybe in lower setting, or maybe the floor. Squeeze inner thighs towards one another. Draw your core in and start to reach your right arm up towards the sky. Can your right shoulder stack over your left shoulder? Same with the ribs. We're trying to turn at the mid-spine. We really want 90% of our twisting to come from our thoracic spine. Gaze is over to the right or maybe up towards the hand, up to you. 3 more breaths here. If you want more, again, tuck the toes, lift the back knee. All the while, if your hips are falling over to the right, squeeze everything back to center. Take an inhale. Your exhale lowers your knee if it's lifted, and then lowers your right hand back to your block or the floor. Start to step your right foot all the way back behind you, letting the toes reach the floor. Pressing through the heel to go shift forward and back. Come back to tabletop. If you have blocks, move them off to the side. Plant your hands. Shift your weight forward. We're coming to a plank pose. You may need to shift the knees a little bit back. We're giving ourselves a little bit of mobility in the hips to let this one long line from knees all the way to head. Should you want more, tuck your toes, lift your knees, come into a full plank pose. Draw your shoulders up to your ears and then exhale, roll them down and away. Take an inhale. Exhale, bend the elbows straight back behind you as you lower all the way down to the floor. Keep your hands planted under your shoulders. Velcro your elbows in by your ribs. Inhale, start to press down through the hips and the feet as you lift the heart, gaze comes forward. Low cobra. We'll do this with breath. Exhale, let it go. Inhale, lift, open the heart, drag the hands and elbows back as you press down, low cobra. One more time. Exhale, let it go. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Plant through the hand, press up, back through tabletop, shift the hips back, child's pose. We're going to stay here in the child's pose for 3 breaths, or you can tuck your toes under, send your hips high, downward facing dog. If you choose downward facing dog, can you pedal out the feet? Can you extend the backs of the legs? Just give yourself that whole back body stretch. And then let's start to come back down to our tabletop. Knee all back together. Let's do the same thing on the other side, with or without your blocks, up to you. Step the left foot forward. Find our original shape, which is drawing the left heel back just a little bit. It's not actually going to move isometrically. You draw the right knee forward and you squeeze everything to center. There's the foundation of our lunge. Start to walk your hands up your thigh. Bring the shoulders directly over your hips. Find your foundation once again. If your front foot's like directly in front of your back knee, widen your stance. We want to have it actually where our hips are. Okay. When you're ready, right arm lifts. Make sure that didn't compromise anything with the lower body. If you want more, left hand reaches. Here's where we'll stay for 5 breaths. If you want more, tuck your back toes, lift your back knee. Crescent lunge. Working all parts of the body. Really good way to wake up. So you're ready for whatever your day brings. If your back knee is lifted, start to lower it back down. Meet us here. Then your left arm lowers down to the thigh, and then your right hand lowers down to the block. Both hands to blocks. High setting is my recommendation for the blocks, but you do you. Inhale, shift your hips forward, open up your heart, let your gaze climb the wall in front of you. Exhale, shift straight back, straightening the left toes, blocks walk under shoulders. This is our movement. You decide your pace, your depth, connected to breath. Last one here. Let's meet back in our lunge. We're heading to our twist, lowering the block down if you'd like, or finding a setting that makes sense for you. Squeeze everything to center and start to roll your right ribs underneath your left. Left arm starts to lift high. You stay here, or maybe you tuck your back toes and lift your back knee. Can you squeeze your shoulder blades towards one another? Can you maybe lift the arm a little higher? Take a big inhale. And slowly exhale, lower your hand back down. Both blocks come to an even setting. Step the left foot back, all the way back. Toes connect to the floor. You do shift forward and back. Tabletop. Blocks off to the side. Downward facing dog. Walk the hands about a palm's distance forward. Tuck the toes under. Start to send the hips high. Start to lower the ears towards your upper arms. This is your first dog, or even if it's not, maybe you want to start to pedal out the feet. Maybe you want to shake the head yes and no. Maybe one hip wants to dip. Start to just get a little fluid with it, just like we did in our cat-cow earlier. Now, this is meant to be a flow that leads you to head off for the rest of the day. So we're not going to end our class in a kind of a traditional Shavasana today. We're going to end it standing. So just know that that's eventually where we're headed for expectation's sake. And when you're ready, start to walk your hands back towards your feet to arrive at a forward fold at the back of your mat. Bend your knees generously so your torso can start to lay on your thighs. And then see if you can draw your head closer down to the floor. Maybe the hips get a little higher. Hands are here for support. Inhale, walk your hands to your shins. Reach your crown of the head forward, straighten the spine. L shape with the body, halfway lift. Exhale, let it go, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Crown of the head reaches forward, core engages, hips reach back. Exhale, let it go. Inhale, bend the knees, drop the hips, reach the arms forward and up as you rise to stand. Exhale, hands at heart center. Okay, we're going to do some big circle sweeps with the arms. So I need to adjust myself in my space to do that. You might need to do the same. If your blanket's still on your mat, go ahead and move it off to the side to get it out of the way. And then just as we started, we're going to have our hands circle sweep out. Our exhale, we're going to bring our hands through. Now there's two options for this. If you just want more of the energetics in the upper body, especially if you're about to sit all day, great, just do that. If you want a little bit more full body strengthening, when you exhale and come down, you're going to come down into a chair pose. So chair pose can either be feet hip distance or narrower. Everything squeezes to center as you sink low into a chair. And then when you come back up, you'll straighten the legs and you'll come through. Okay. I'll cue that one, or we'll walk through that one, but know you have the option to stay standing the whole time. So plant strong through the feet, about hip distance apart. Inhale, arms reach high. Palms to touch. Exhale, engage the core, chair pose. Maybe this becomes a little faster. Five more. Let's meet back standing. Hands at heart. Feel the effects of that practice. Maybe it's a little energized. I'm going to give you one more option for kind of quick or slow. So we're going to head to a forward fold with an active breath. So let me show you what this looks like. Okay, so you can do that slow. We're transitioning from standing arms overhead to a forward fold. So that's just a quick, slow looks like. Big bend to the knees, sending the hips back, hands coming down to blocks would be a good tool for that if you're going to go slow. Or maybe we clear out the stagnation that we gained over our sleep and we want to clear it out. Okay, so let's decide. I'm going to go quick. All good what you choose. Inhale, arms come high. Exhale, fold side out. Really let it go. 3 more times. Stay in your forward fold or head there if you went back to standing. Maybe this forward fold wants to be a little wider. Feet, if you're feeling dizzy, come back to standing. So if you're forward fold, you feel good, you know where you want to be. Standing and you're lightheaded, couple sharp exhales out the nose. Hopefully that'll kind of clear everything up. Grab some support if you need. Let the breath come back to neutral. Let's all meet back at standing. Standing, feet are about hip distance apart, hands are down, shoulders draw away from the ears, spreading wide across the heart. Hands reach forward, nice and active. Crown of the head reaches tall, find length in the back of the neck. If that doesn't feel possible, maybe there's a tiny tuck at the chin. Not so much so that you're looking down, you're still at the horizon. Eyes are closed, or gaze is soft. Feel the effects of your morning practice. Feel the effects of movement and breath and the power that they have when they're combined. You're welcome to stay exactly as you are. Or if you'd like to close your practice in a place of containment, draw your hands to heart center, either Anjali Mudra or stack them on your heart. Take a big inhale in. Exhale, let it go. I'll close with an Om. Feel free to join me from afar or listen. Inhale. Oh. Exhale, let it go. Thank you for spending your time, energy, and practice with me. I'll see you next week.